There's something special about chasing a dream that feels too big to ever be real. When you first think of it, it almost sounds like a fantasy, an image floating at the edge of your mind. Yet somehow, you hold on to it, because it excites you, because it makes life feel larger than your surroundings. I've spent my life trying to build things people once said were impossible: rockets that travel beyond our sky, cars that run without fuel, tunnels that reimagine how cities breathe. Every one of them began as a small, fragile idea that most thought would never happen. But step by step, through risk, persistence, and unshakable belief, the impossible slowly started to take shape. Dreams always start as tiny sparks of imagination's soft flickers that appear in quiet moments, often when the night feels endless and the world too vast. Yet those sparks carry a strange power. They may look delicate, but they're stronger than logic. They refuse to fade. In the beginning, dreams feel uncertain, blurred, abstract, without any clear direction. There are no maps, no guarantees, no safety nets. And that uncertainty is what makes them alive. Because if every step were already known, it wouldn't be a dream, it would be routine. The unknown gives a dream its magic. Holding a dream feels like balancing glass on a thread. You wonder if it can survive the storm of reality, if you're capable enough to bring it into existence. But that fragility is exactly what gives it value. To dream is to leap into uncertainty, to imagine a world that doesn't yet exist, and to decide you'll help create it anyway. That first spark of imagination grows only when you feed it, with curiosity, with courage, with the willingness to ask, what if? The greatest ideas in history were once nothing but whispers in someone's mind. A simple thought that refused to disappear. Every giant leap began with a single question, one brave enough to be asked when no one else dared. Dreams usually appear in small, quiet moments. A walk, a sleepless night, a random line from a book. And because they rarely fit into what's comfortable or expected, people dismiss them. Society prefers what's familiar. But to chase a dream means stepping outside that comfort, accepting challenge and criticism, and facing doubt, both from others and from yourself. There will be nights when the dream feels too far away, like a mirage fading into the distance. But those are the nights that matter most, because in those moments of doubt, your spark can become a flame if you keep feeding it with focus, intention, and action. Imagination alone isn't enough. A dream without work stays a fantasy. But imagination is the foundation. It lets you see what others can't yet imagine. It's the blueprint of possibility. When you explore, experiment, and allow yourself to fail forward, the dream begins to take form. Each mistake teaches you. Each attempt brings clarity. Slowly, the invisible becomes visible. The spark becomes fire. Not through luck, but through steady persistence and courage to push past fear. Holding on to a dream means learning patience. The path isn't straight. You'll face detours, delays, and times when progress feels invisible. But even in stillness, the dream is growing. It waits for you to recognize its worth and keep moving toward it. Dreams are not about instant reward, they're about vision, endurance, and faith in transformation. The first spark may be quiet, but with dedication, it turns into light strong enough to guide not only you, but everyone who'll follow. The start of a dream is the most fragile and most powerful point of all. It's the moment you promise yourself that you won't accept the limits of today as the boundaries of tomorrow. You declare that you believe change and innovation are possible, and that you'll take the first step to prove it. Every achievement begins in the realm of thought, before it exists in reality. The road from idea to impact is never smooth, but simply daring to imagine begins a chain reaction of creativity, opportunity, and timing. Persistence, risk, and belief. These three forces shape every dream into reality. The difference between dreamers and doers isn't talent or luck, it's the quiet decision to keep going when everything feels broken. Vision alone is potential energy. It needs movement to become real. It must be tested by failure, shaped by risk, and held together by faith. Look back at history. Every great leap forward was made by someone who refused to stop when everyone else did. Persistence isn't about constant confidence. It's about endurance. It's walking through uncertainty, building without applause, and continuing when no one understands. Belief is what keeps that endurance alive. It isn't blind hope. It's calm conviction that your vision is worth the pain. Belief doesn't mean you're always sure. It means you move even when you're not. It's what keeps you awake while others rest, focused when quitting would be easier. True belief grows not from victory, but from resistance. Each setback, every rejection, forges mental steel. You start to realize failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the workshop where success is built. Risk is the price of creation. You can't invent something new without stepping into uncertainty, without staking your time, energy, and reputation. Most people see risk as danger, but risk is possibility in disguise. Every discovery required someone to take that first uncertain step. Risk asks for courage, but also for clarity, to know what you stand for and why you're willing to fall. Growth only happens where certainty ends. When you enter spaces without guarantees, you discover how resourceful and strong you truly are. Persistence, belief, and risk form an equation. Each strengthens the other. Persistence without belief burns out. Belief without risk stays fantasy. Risk without persistence turns reckless. But together, they can bend reality. They turn imagination into innovation. This is transformation, taking an invisible idea and shaping it into something you can touch. Every vision demands these three. They make the impossible inevitable. There will be days when persistence feels pointless, when effort seems to vanish into nothing. But those moments define the journey. The ones who succeed aren't always the smartest or the luckiest. They're simply the ones who keep showing up. They understand results don't appear overnight. They build layer by layer, through steady effort. They work quietly, accept loneliness, and stay focused on the long view instead of short-term praise. The world eventually rewards consistency, because consistency builds trust, both in others and within yourself. When you trust your own persistence, belief grows stronger, and risk feels less frightening. Every bold dream starts with a fragile moment of doubt. You look at what you're trying to do, and it feels enormous. But persistence changes that feeling. Each small step, each small risk, each act of faith builds momentum. Slowly, what seemed impossible starts to breathe, then move, then live. When it finally becomes real, you'll trace it back to those early days when belief was your only fuel. The world might only see the finished result, but you'll remember the sleepless nights, the silent doubts, the inner voice that whispered, "Keep going, just one more step." Belief turns vision into energy. Risk turns fear into motion. Persistence turns time into progress. Together, they form the structure of every dream that comes true. There's no shortcut, no way around the struggle. The struggle is proof that the dream matters. It's the universe's way of asking, how much do you really want this? It tests your strength, your patience, and your faith. And when you refuse to let go, when you keep risking, believing, and persisting, reality eventually bends to your vision. There's a lesson hidden in the struggle, a truth that only reveals itself with time. Sometimes, the best way to attract what you seek is to stop clinging so tightly. To trust that things meant for you will find their way when you're ready, not when you're desperate. Letting go isn't giving up. It's making space for the unexpected to enter. Because life-changing moments never arrive with warning. They slip quietly into ordinary days. A small meeting, a random choice, a single moment that shifts everything. Years later, you look back and realize that one decision, one encounter, one failure that once hurt you actually reshaped your path completely. The person you met by chance, the job you almost refused, the setback that forced you to grow, those weren't accidents. They were turning points. And what's beautiful is that you can't plan them. You can't schedule destiny. You can only stay open enough to recognize it when it appears. These moments are born from timing, courage, and the willingness to act when your heart whispers, "This matters." Our minds crave control. We want life to follow a clear pattern, to make sense. But growth doesn't live in predictability. It hides in chaos. in the unplanned and the unknown. The unexpected doesn't break you, it refines you. It strips away illusions, deepens awareness, and reveals what truly holds meaning. What you fear often becomes what strengthens you. What you overlook becomes what matters most. Change doesn't shout, it whispers. It arrives quietly through the cracks of ordinary life until one day you realize everything is different. When you start to embrace uncertainty, it stops feeling like disorder and starts to feel like design. You begin to see that what seemed random was often part of a bigger plan, one that only makes sense in hindsight. Maybe what you thought was a delay was really protection. Maybe what you lost was just a redirection. Maybe what seemed sudden had been preparing itself for years. That's the beauty of timing. It's not chaos, it's choreography. The key is to stay flexible, to keep your mind open enough to notice opportunity, even when it looks nothing like you expected. Life refuses to follow a perfect plan because it wants you to grow through trust. It asks you to believe that even when things seem uncertain, something meaningful is unfolding behind the scenes. Those life-changing moments, they aren't accidents. They're intersections where readiness meets timing. You might not recognize them at first, but you'll feel them. Deep down, a quiet shift, a heartbeat louder than usual. And then you understand all the waiting, all the effort, all the nights of doubt were preparing you for this. The timing was never wrong. It was aligning you with the strength, clarity, and heart you'd need when the right moment finally arrived. You can build rockets, design cities, or change industries. You can chase every form of success the world admires. But without love, without human connection, there remains an emptiness that no trophy, title, or invention can fill. Ambition can consume years of your life. It can push you to reach for more, to break barriers, to conquer limits. And yes, achievement brings pride, but when you finally get there, when you stand on top of what you once dreamed, you realize something quietly profound. Success brings satisfaction, not fulfillment. Fulfillment is deeper. It's born from love, from being understood, from being seen, not for what you do, but for who you are. Love gives balance to the chaos of creation. It reminds you that progress without emotion is just movement, that achievement without empathy is only noise. In the stillness between victories, what stays with you are not the numbers or awards, it's the people. The ones who believed in you when you didn't, the ones who stood beside you when everything shook, the conversations that lit your heart, the laughter that made you forget the pressure. These are the true riches of life, the kind that never lose value. Connection is what makes creation meaningful. Every invention, every dream realized, starts from the desire to connect, to improve life, to share understanding, to bring people closer. Humans were never meant to exist alone. We're wired for connection, to share, to teach, to inspire. Without that, even the brightest success feels cold. Progress becomes mechanical, lifeless, disconnected from the heart. True innovation happens when emotion and intellect work together. When your creation doesn't just solve a problem, but also touches someone's soul. Love gives that balance. It grounds genius with compassion and makes ambition human again. When you look back someday, it won't be the size of your success that defines your story. It'll be the depth of your relationships. Who did you love deeply? Who did you help stand when they were down? Who did you let truly see you beyond the mask? In a world obsessed with speed and results, we often forget that hearts aren't machines. They need presence, they need patience, they need honesty and openness. Love isn't weakness, it's strength, the kind that builds, heals, and unites. It's far braver to care deeply than to compete endlessly. It takes more courage to stay open than to stay guarded. Every great transformation, personal or global, begins with connection, because connection wakes up purpose. The irony of modern success is that it often isolates people. The higher you rise, the fewer understand your view. But love closes that distance. It reminds you that beneath ambition, you're still human, capable of tenderness, empathy, and humility. Love keeps you grounded when fame tries to lift you too high. It keeps you hopeful when failure knocks you down. It becomes the silent rhythm that gives meaning to every achievement. Love doesn't have to be loud or dramatic. Sometimes it hides in the smallest things. a kind message, a patient silence, a shared dream whispered at midnight. These are the moments that stay when everything else fades. Success can amplify life, but love gives it harmony. It bridges the gap between doing and being. It teaches you that joy isn't a finish line, it's presence. It's not something you chase, it's something you allow. Love can turn loneliness into understanding, ambition into compassion, and pain into purpose. It gives context to effort and turns existence into experience. The world praises achievement, but the truest measure of greatness is how deeply you connect while achieving, how much heart you bring into what you build. Because love and connection aren't distractions from purpose, they're the foundation of it.
Every act of creation, every dream, every success is a call for connection. It's a way of saying, I see you. I feel what you feel. I want to make this world a little better for us.
That's why love matters more than any award or goal. It's the invisible thread that ties every story together, turning ambition into legacy and innovation into something deeply human. Without it, achievement is hollow. With it, even the smallest act becomes timeless. Patience and resilience, these two shape every dream that lasts. Every goal, no matter how passionate your desire, follows a rhythm that can't be rushed. You can plan endlessly, work day and night, and still find yourself waiting. Waiting for results, waiting for timing, waiting for something unseen to align. But growth doesn't happen all at once. It happens quietly, layer by layer, in ways you can't always measure. Patience doesn't mean standing still, it means trusting the process, knowing that every step, even the slow ones, is moving you closer to where you're meant to be. Even the most powerful ideas need the right season to bloom. Seeds don't grow in one day. They need the right soil, the right light, and the right moment. The same is true for your dreams. We live in a world obsessed with speed, quick results, overnight fame, instant wins. But real progress is built in silence. The waiting isn't wasted time. It's the unseen preparation, the space where you grow stronger, smarter, and more grounded. When nothing seems to be happening, everything inside you is being prepared. The delay isn't denial, it's alignment. The universe isn't ignoring your effort, it's arranging your readiness with the right opportunity. Because if something arrives before you're ready for it, it can destroy you instead of elevate you. Patience shapes you into the person who can hold the blessing you've been working for. Resilience walks hand in hand with patience. It's what keeps you standing when progress disappears, when dreams feel heavy, when everything you built seems to fall apart. Resilience isn't about being unbreakable. It's about bending without collapsing, rebuilding without losing hope, and continuing to move forward even when you can't see the way. It's the quiet strength that whispers, not yet, but soon. Every setback isn't a failure, it's an adjustment. It's the universe redirecting you towards something more fitting. What you thought was an ending often becomes the beginning of your real story. Timing is one of the most misunderstood parts of life. You can't force it, but you can prepare for it. The right moment doesn't appear when you demand it, it shows up when you've grown enough to meet it. It's like a door that only becomes visible when you've learned enough to walk through it. Patience ensures that when opportunity arrives, you don't hesitate out of fear. You step in with strength and confidence, knowing that you're ready. Most people quit right before timing aligns. They give up when the process is finally turning in their favor. The ones who make it through aren't always the most skilled. They're the ones who learn to wait with faith. They keep refining their craft, building their character, and staying focused even when progress hides from sight. Resilience turns time from your enemy into your ally. Instead of fighting the delay, you start to see its purpose. You begin to notice how the setbacks shaped your focus, how the waiting built your patience, and how the pain deepened your gratitude. What once felt like wasted time becomes proof that you were being prepared. Patience gives meaning to struggle. It transforms frustration into strength and confusion into wisdom. When you stop resisting time and start working with it, peace replaces pressure. You understand that not everything has to happen fast to happen right. Every journey has a natural rhythm, a heartbeat that alternates between movement and stillness. You can't sprint forever. Sometimes you need to pause, breathe, and allow life to catch up with your effort. Preparation is sacred. It's not wasted energy. It's the space where you align your focus, polish your vision, and gather quiet strength. Patience and resilience together create maturity, and maturity helps you handle success with balance instead of ego, gratitude instead of pride. It's easy to dream big. It's harder to wait without bitterness. But the ones who can wait and still believe, they're the ones who eventually reach breakthroughs that feel effortless because they already did the hard work on the inside long before the reward appeared on the outside. The timing of your life is never random. Every delay, every detour, every disappointment carries a hidden message. It's teaching you endurance. It's testing your trust. It's grounding you in faith when everything feels uncertain. The universe doesn't respond to impatience. It responds to alignment. When your energy, your preparation, and your belief all match the right moment, things start to move with precision. That's not luck. That's timing meeting readiness. Until then, patience is your practice, and resilience is your armor. Together they turn waiting into wisdom and struggle into readiness. They prepare you for the exact moment when what you've been dreaming about finally steps into your reality. Dreams only come alive when action, faith, and optimism work together. A dream without action is just imagination. Action without faith is empty motion. And faith without optimism fades too soon. Action gives shape to vision. It's the daily decision to keep building, even when no one's watching. Success doesn't come from random bursts of effort, it grows from steady consistency. Every small step carries weight. Every single act of effort pushes the dream closer to form.
Repeated endurance which can come on the says. Repeated the number of the least say that I can generate to the lingerie. Busy fatish. That is
Like a reader describe. I'm just duffing a message through the studio. Listen.
What can I message by Mac and Shoop? The suit of my both.
Faith is the glue that holds the dream together during silence. It's not about never doubting. It's about walking forward even while you doubt. Faith means believing in the unseen, trusting that the path you're on is leading somewhere meaningful, even when the horizon is foggy. Faith transforms obstacles into lessons. It turns failure into refinement instead of defeat. When everything tells you to stop, faith reminds you that this moment is temporary, that something greater is unfolding, beyond what you can see. Optimism is the emotion that fuels both faith and action. It's not blind positivity. It's the ability to see possibility even inside difficulty. Optimism doesn't deny the storm. It believes the sun will rise again. It's the courage to hold on to hope when everything around you feels uncertain. Optimism keeps creativity alive. It lets you experiment, adapt, and find new ways to move forward without fear of embarrassment or loss.
And Madding, when you combine action, faith, and optimism, they begin to feed each other.
Action strengthens faith. This progress builds trust in your own power. Faith fuels optimism because belief gives hope a reason to stay. Net as forward to energizes action because a hopeful heart can always move forward. If one of these is missing, the system weakens. But when all three stay in harmony, momentum becomes unstoppable. Most people don't fail because their dreams are impossible. They fail because they lose balance between these forces. They act without believing, believe without doing, or let negativity crush their optimism. True success happens when all three align. When effort is powered by faith and faith is lit by optimism, your dream starts to pull itself toward you. You stop chasing outcomes and start attracting them. Faith without effort feels empty. Effort without belief feels mechanical. Hope without movement feels like waiting for luck. The secret is blending them until they become second nature. When you act with faith, every small step feels guided. When you move with optimism, even challenges become growth. Dreams don't need perfection, they need persistence. Every imperfect effort counts. Every failed attempt strengthens your courage. Each act of belief shapes you into the person who can handle the dream when it arrives. There will be days when all three, action, faith, and optimism, are tested. You'll question yourself, doubt your path, and feel like giving up. But remember, Uncertainty doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're growing.
Action brings clarity. Faith brings endurance. Optimism brings light. Together, they turn motion into meaning.
Over time, you'll notice small shifts, the right people appearing, unexpected doors opening, coincidences aligning. What once felt unreachable begins to take form before your eyes. Dreams are not accidents. They are the world's way of asking you to express your deepest potential. They choose you as much as you choose them, but they demand partnership, your consistency, your courage, your trust. When you align these three: action, faith, and optimism, you start working with the flow of life instead of against it. You stop forcing and start becoming. That's when the dream begins to unfold, not as fantasy, but as reality. Not as something you chase, but something you grow into. When you act with faith and live with optimism, something incredible happens. You begin to sync with the rhythm of life itself. The process becomes less about control and more about connection. Less about chasing and more about aligning. You stop trying to force the outcome and start trusting the unfolding. You realize that every step, every pause, every delay has been shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more ready for what's next. True dreams aren't distant fantasies. They're reflections of who you were meant to become. Each one calls you toward a higher version of yourself, one built not only on talent, but on patience, courage, and heart. The journey from idea to reality is never straight. It bends, it breaks, it rebuilds you. But through it all, you begin to understand that your dream was never just about what you wanted to achieve. It was about who you were meant to become along the way. When you finally arrive at that moment, when what you've worked for stands before you, you don't just see success. You see every sleepless night, every failure that refined you, every lesson that stretched your soul. You realize the real victory wasn't reaching the destination. It was growing into the person capable of walking that path. Dreams don't simply come true, they transform you into someone who no longer doubts they can. That's the hidden beauty of the process. It changes your inner world first, and only then does your outer world follow. When all the noise fades, the applause, the recognition, the numbers, what remains is peace. A quiet, grounded peace that comes from knowing you gave everything, and you grew in ways no one else could see. And in that peace, you realize something deeper. The dream didn't just belong to you. It was life itself expressing through you. The world doesn't need perfect people. It needs passionate ones. People who keep believing, who keep building, who keep loving even when everything seems to fall apart. Because they are the ones who turn imagination into progress, hope into purpose, and struggle into meaning. You'll come to understand that the dream was never just about the result, it was the teacher. Every obstacle, every heartbreak, every almost was shaping the strength you needed for your true calling. Sometimes, the reward isn't what you get at the end. It's who you become in the process. The courage, the resilience, the faith, those stay with you long after the applause fades. The world often sees the product, not the process. But you will always remember both, the uncertainty, the fear, and the moments you nearly gave up but didn't. Because those are the quiet victories that define you far more than any public success. The truth is, dreams don't belong to the lucky, they belong to the relentless. To those who keep showing up even when nothing seems to be working. Persistence turns time into movement. Belief turns movement into direction. Love turns direction into purpose. Together, they create the life you are meant to live. No matter how big your vision, remember this: love is still the center of it all. It's what makes ambition human and progress meaningful. Without love, for your craft, for your people, for your purpose, success becomes hollow. Love is what keeps you humble when success tries to blind you, and strong when failure tries to break you. It's the pulse behind creation, the invisible energy that turns effort into expression. Every great achievement, every invention, every story worth telling has love at its core. Love for life, love for growth, love for something greater than yourself. When you act with love, you create more than success, you create legacy. Because love leaves traces that time cannot erase. So if you're standing at the edge of your dream, scared, uncertain, doubting whether it's possible, remember this. You don't need perfect conditions to start. You just need the courage to begin. You don't need every answer. You just need to take one honest step. You don't have to see the entire path. You just have to believe it exists. Because the dream you're holding didn't come to you by accident. It chose you for a reason. And one day, when it becomes real, when it's no longer a spark, but a living reality, you'll look back and understand. Every setback was a lesson. Every delay was preparation. Every doubt was proof that you were growing into the version of yourself capable of carrying the dream.
The journey, with all its twists and trials, will make sense in the end.
Because dreams don't just build the future, they build you. And that is the most extraordinary creation of all.